Hello, world. Welcome to the 275th climate change emergency protest here in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. I'm in the living or dining room rather with Luna. Last week I had Jenny on, and she passed away the next day after I did the broadcast. I kind of knew that was going to happen. So Luna's all on her own, and she's a little depressed, and we're debating whether to get another dog for her, puppy-ish young adult, so she can be the one in charge. She's 6 years old, so she's been a great dog. Jenny's passing was very painful, and but I was there beside her the whole time, and I was there for her last breath. So I appreciate the condolences. Tanya and I are muddling through and trying to get used to not having two dogs, and Jenny was such a big presence as a German Shepherd, 115 pounds, that she was really a special kind of dog. So I appreciate everything you all have done. And I'm going to give Luna a treat, so when I do my talk. All right, so as I said, this is the 275th climate change emergency protest. I'm here in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, if you all are first-timers. So, climate change goes beyond just talking about climate change because everything is linked and related to each other. So I'm going to talk about a variety of subjects, and you've heard some of them before, or most of them before. It's no big news to a lot of you. But right now we have a dereliction of duty going on in the country and the world. The world leaders are not going forward with climate change and doing massive amounts of action that we need. We're too busy. And if you are aliens looking at our planet, you know what's going on. You've been watching these broadcasts, obviously. But it's craziness that we're fighting each other. If you look at the globe as a whole, there are no borders. And anyone looking from the outside, from space down, is probably like, what is wrong with these humans? And I don't know what it is. I don't know what their intrinsic problem is. That right now, if you talk about peace, rather than thank you for your service to the Army guys and the Marines and Navy guys and everything, if you talk about peace and negotiations, you're on the outside. And if you talk about climate change, you're on the outside. And if you talk about genocide, you're on the outside. And if you talk about ecocide, the destruction of the environment, you're on the outside. You're ostracized, especially in this area, as to how far people are willing to go. And pointing out the obvious, that the parties that are involved are engaged in this, and the leaders of those parties are the leaders of those parties engaged in these situations. So this is worldwide. This is not unique to the United States. There is no country, basically, other than a lot of the smaller countries in Africa and the global south, are innocent in all this. Infrastructure right now, are we going to be able to handle the increased electricity that's required for electrification of everything? Probably not. We're not willing to spend the money on it. We're too busy spending on war. I think our war budget in the United States was $900 billion, but if you factor in the Veterans Administration and things like that, you're well over $1 trillion. And factor in militarization of the police, you're probably talking $1.4 trillion. So it's insanity what's happening right now. The people of the United States, total dereliction of duty. They don't care. Our, people we know, friends and all, they don't want to talk about climate change. They don't want to talk about war. They don't want to, except from the evilness of the other factions involved. So there's no honest discussion about anything. And this is a prescription for extinction and what's happening right now. The politicians, they're derelict in their duties. Local politicians, especially, not talking about anything about climate change or the war and how it's all related. This doesn't take a brainiac to figure out how everything's interrelated. The Biden administration and Trump running for president in the Republican Party, one of these two knuckleheads are going to be president again. And that's a shame, because there's Jill Stein in the Green Party. Go to the Green Party platform. I talked about this before. There is nothing in the Green Party platform you possibly could disagree with at all. And this Jill Stein running for the Green Party president, 2024, president of the United States. But there's nothing in the platform you could possibly disagree with and be a human being. All right, it doesn't make sense. So stay with your Biden and Trump. We're going to die. But here's what's going on. Biden isn't talking about climate change at all. He might mention the word climate change, but that's about it. That's as far as it goes. And Trump totally denies it. So you got one guy, Biden, who says the word climate change, but authorized more drilling in the United States in the history of the world. And no other country last year ever produced as much oil as what we did in natural gas. He authorized 6,000 drilling permits in his first 2 years on federal land. He lied about that, said he wasn't going to do any. He authorized the Willow Project in Alaska, which is more drilling. Authorized 3 auctions in the Gulf of Mexico, which is more drilling. I don't know how anyone that has children could ever vote for this guy or any Democrat, because they're all behind it. They're all following in lockstep behind. Same with Trump, total denier. The only good thing about Trump is he's on the surface and tells you to his face he's not going to do this. You don't have to dig down deep to figure out that the guy's a knucklehead and off his rocker. Biden is more dangerous because he does everything under the table and you don't see it happening, and the press doesn't report it because they're in cahoots with the major owners of these companies and then with the politicians in general. So the Congress has no laws about climate change. They're not doing anything to promote climate change action and things like that. Yeah, you had the Inflation Reduction Act. Whoopee, $39 billion a year when we need over something like $7 trillion a year worldwide in action against climate change. So $39 billion is like nothing. We spend $900 billion, $39 billion versus $900 billion to go kill people. Get it? See the problem here? That's what I'm talking about. Peace and a different type of thought is needed. So the drilling, as I said, most ever and all that stuff. Who cares, right? Who cares? No border. Nobody's talking about the broadcasts. If there are no broadcasts from Biden or Trump talking about climate change, it doesn't spill down into the friends and family and things like that. No one's talking about it. It's verboten. You dare not talk about climate change and things like that. Dare not talk about Gaza and the slaughter fest going on there, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Churches. You going to church? You're going to a church, a synagogue, a mosque, whatever in the United States. There's no conversation about climate change. This is a genocide of the human race. Okay, we're going extinct. Okay, we're here if we haven't gone off the edge already, and we're just in free fall, which is my suspicion, towards extinction. And there's no talking about it. Everyone goes to church on Sunday and prays to their God, whoever it is, and says how wonderful they are, and their God is wonderful, all about love and thinking about others. Meanwhile, you go home Sunday afternoon and engage in situations with your politicians by not arguing against them and saying how heinous their policies are against the ecocide and genocide of humanity and all life on Earth. This country, United States, had 38 events last year that were over $1 billion in damage. 38 events, over $1 billion in damage. And this last fire hose of water coming in, rain coming into California was over $11 billion in damage. So these events are happening, and yet in those states and in those regions, there's no talk of climate change. There's no action going on. This blows my mind how you can be destroyed. Your house can be wiped out by climate change, and yet you still won't acknowledge it. You won't talk about it. It's too scary. I'll tell you what's scary is losing your life and losing your house and everything you own and everything you love, your friends, your family, whatever, and watching your infrastructure fall apart right in front of your eyes, and you still won't talk about it. What will it take? My guess is humans are too chicken shit to do anything about it, and this is where we're headed. In Australia, for example, I think it's 85% of the Australians who have gone through climate change, like the horrendous fires, if you remember, the koala bears burning and screaming, kangaroos, sheep, everything dying in fires. Then 2 years later, floods everywhere, deep floods. Well, 85% of Australians believe that it does not require immediate action, climate change. It's a human weirdness going on, and Australians are not alone because it's in the United States too, because you have overt deniers like Trump, and then you have de facto deniers, Trump and the Republicans. Then you have de facto deniers, which are like the Democrats and Biden, who say it's a problem but actually do nothing about it and won't talk about it. Friends and family, region, area, politicians, local, regional, won't talk about climate change. So that it's insane. So everything's related to everything else. The Gaza situation right now, 30,000 are dead, 70,000 are wounded, and more than 30,000 will have died after the people who were wounded die. You got famine breaking out. You're going to end up with diseases breaking out. There are 1.4 million people out of the 2-point-something million people in the Gaza Strip. 1.4 million are crushed into the town of Rafah right now. And the Israelis are threatening an assault on it. Meanwhile, Joe Biden eating ice cream in some shop somewhere. And if Trump had done this, the press would have been all over him. eating ice cream, saying, yeah, maybe by Monday next week there'll be an agreement for a ceasefire for 4 weeks or something or other. This is total blatant disconnect, dereliction of duty, and an uncaring person about humans and people of brown skin throughout the world. You're seeing people suffer in the global south because of climate change, and in Africa because of climate change because they're brown. No one cares about them, right? I mean, we're all about whitey world. Maybe a couple of United States. In the United States, we like some people of color, but in reality, we're a racist country and society throughout the world. And you can say we're not, but look at the actions to what's happening. So, the answer to Israel, after all this stuff going on in Gaza, I said it last week, is Biden could authorize this today, a military corridor, because we have military everywhere, right into Gaza, and create a buffer, a zone where you get food, water, and supplies, and you spread out with our military and issue these things in specific areas, and let the Gazans come down with representatives and trucks and pick up the food, water, fuel, things like that. We could do this instantly. We don't want to. Eating ice cream in the shop and being laissez-faire about it and blah, blah, blah. It's like let them eat cake. It's Marie Antoinette all over again. And those people who are in charge are definitely in dereliction of duty. They had a chance to negotiate about, well, I'll talk about it in a second. So Egypt and Jordan are players in this whole situation as well, right on the edge of the Gaza Strip. They could establish a two-state solution where they allow the Palestinians a joint area to go to in Egypt and an area in Jordan to go to and have a safe zone, West Bank versus the Gaza Strip. But they're not gonna. They could negotiate. The United States could put the hammer down on Israel right now, saying no more supplies, no more money, and in fact, we're going to be an antagonist against you at this point because you need to stop doing this genocide in Gaza. It's an all-out genocide. There is no interpretation needed. This is according to international law. This is a genocide going on. You've cut off of water, food, fuel, medicine. You're compressing people into an area. You're gunning them down, shooting people just straight up for moving at all. I watched a guy get shot on the street with his sons. They went back into an area of Gaza to get their family members out, and the guy got shot and killed. He was like in his 60s. You know, it's insanity what's going on. It's straight up a crime. So politicians won't acknowledge the suffering. These people, the Joe Bidens and the Donald Trumps, will go to church on Sunday, make their appearance, but meanwhile they're engaged in genocide. Our country is engaged in genocide. The politicians, Congresses are engaged in genocide. If you want to hear about genocide and them not caring a bit, go to a recording of the congressman going out through one of their tunnels and being questioned as to about the genocide and holding up the Israeli flag. And this is about Zionism. This has nothing to do with religion. Zionism is about the country of Israel. The country of Israel is doing some heinous stuff, as is the United States. It's all related, though. We're not going to do anything about climate change till we get these wars in line. And another war is Russia versus Ukraine. Russia is producing 7 times the amount of artillery shells than is all of NATO. It's a home field advantage for them. This situation is untenable for the Ukrainians. They're going to go under in the long run, and NATO is not willing to go in there and fight them, which is good because then it ended up being a whole World War III. But the idea that Ukraine's going to win this war ain't going to happen. Can't happen. It's not going to happen. Russia has an unlimited amount of industrial power coming at them, and it's focused in a real small area. So we had the chance last year. No one knows about this, but in Ukraine, they had a peace offer on the table between Putin and Zelensky and the Ukrainians and the Russians. And Boris Johnson from Great Britain was ordered by the United States and Great Britain to go down there and tunnel and destroy any peace agreement that could have been made. These people don't want peace. They want to have war. They want money to be made off of war. And we will keep funding this Ukrainian war until the last Ukrainian. And that's just a fact. I mean, we don't care about them and people in Ukraine. If you're watching this, we don't care about you. We care about fighting the evil Russians. You know, we could be talking to each other, getting this in line, getting that out of the way, getting the Taiwan situation with China figured out, getting the thing in Gaza figured out, and then we can move forward with climate change. But it's not going to happen. We're going to spend all our money on war. We're going to put all the focus on war. These stupid news organizations, Fox, and the other 3 news organizations here, all about war. War. Trump, Biden, you know, who cares about climate change? we're going to die. Okay, we're headed towards extinction. That's just a, you do a chart and a step chart to connect the dots where we're headed, and we're going totally in the wrong direction. And whether we're going to die in 3 years or in 20 years, the timeline is coming to an end, and we cannot persist on this path we're on. So United States, you got a border issue going down in the South. They want to build more walls, build more walls. That doesn't solve the issue. The issue is people are leaving the areas for various reasons, either political or gang related, that they're being robbed and murdered down there, or as in El Salvador, you have both, but you also have a huge issue of climate change. And that's their biggest issue down there as far as they can't survive. Guatemala, Central America, places like that. Brazil is having issues. Peru, you name it. Santiago, Chile just had massive wildfires. Having wildfires in Texas right now, 285,000 acres just in one fire by itself. So you got a whole worldwide issue, and you need people in charge that have a worldwide perspective, not a perspective about your own country, an ethnocentric type thing. You know, your country is number one and all that stuff. You need a worldwide focus as to what's happening. And we need to get on with this climate change issue. This is not going to get solved while we're all fighting each other constantly. So that's all I got to say about that. Thanks for hanging in there. And dereliction duty, you keep voting the same, you get the same. Check out the Green Party platform with Jill Stein. I dare you to find something wrong with the Green Party platform versus these numbnuts in charge and what they're actually doing with their political parties. Keep voting for the same, get the same. You deserve what you get what you deserve. And the idea of keep fighting about it is absolutely ridiculous. See you later.